Hello everyone, and in this video we're gonna build a sidebar using React.js and Tailwind CSS. So let's open our terminal and type the following command: npm create Vite at latest, and I also write dot in the end so that everything will be installed inside this React sidebar folder. Here let's choose React and then JavaScript. So now we need to say npm install. Now it's time to connect Tailwind CSS to our project. So let's visit the official website of Tailwind CSS. Here we need to click Get Started, and then we need to copy this line and paste it in our terminal. Now we need to make some changes in our vite.config.js file. So let's copy this line. And inside this vite.config file, we need to import Tailwind CSS, and then right next to this React, we need to write Tailwind CSS. So inside this plugins array, we also use Tailwind CSS. Now we need to copy this line, and we need to put it inside index.css file. But before, let's delete all this unnecessary code. Okay. We also need to install Framer Motion for animation, React Icons for icons, and React Tooltip for tooltips. So let's do it. Okay, now we can finally say npm run dev. Okay, now inside index.html file, I always like coming here and say React sidebar. Okay, so as you can see, now we see this React sidebar text. Now we can delete, for example, this app.css file because we don't need it, and inside app.jsx file, we can also get rid of this unnecessary code. Instead, let's create a div. And we can also delete these 3 lines. And we can also delete this use state because for now we don't need it. So now I'm gonna split my screen so that you'll be able to see everything that's happening on the screen. So now inside this app.jsx file, let's say the following. Let's say that this div is gonna have this flex style. And let's say that inside we're gonna have a p tag, and here let's say sidebar, and under this p tag we can create a div, and here we can create h1 tag, and here we can say something like stay organized, stay productive. It doesn't really matter, just to display some text, I wrote these words. So let's save it. And now for this div, we can apply the following styles. We can say that it's gonna have this flex1 style. It means that it's gonna take up all the available space inside this flex container. So it means that it's gonna grow and it's gonna take up all the available space. So to see it better, let's say that min height will be screen, and let's say that background color will be blue 200. So let's save it, and as you can see, it's taken this area, and on this area we're gonna work with our sidebar. Okay, now let's keep styling this div. Let's say that it will be flex and items will be center. And let's say that justify will be center. Here it is. And for this h1 tag, we can also apply some styles. Let's say that text will be 3XL and font will be bold. Okay, here it is. So now it's time to work with this sidebar. For that, I'm gonna create a new component So inside this source folder, I'm going to create components. And inside these components, I'm going to create a new file called sidebar.jsx. Okay, so now we need to render this sidebar.jsx file inside this app.jsx file. So let's do it. So here inside this sidebar, we can create a div using motion. We can create a div using framer motion. For that, let's first of all import motion from framer motion. And now we can create a div using motion. So let's say motion.div. Okay. And inside we can show a button which we can take from React icons. So let's import an icon from React icons. Okay. So now inside this motion.div, let's show this icon. But we need to wrap it inside of a button. Okay, so let's save it. As you can see, here we see this button. Here we see this icon. Okay, so now I can come to this motion.div and I can say that initially our width will be 60. So it will be 60 pixels. But on animation, we need to make it bigger. So let's do it. On animate, we need to make it bigger based on the state, based whether is our sidebar is open or not. For that, let's create a state. Let's say is open, set is open, and by default it will be false. Okay, so here I can say width, and if is open true, then I want my width to be 240 pixels. Otherwise, let's make it to be 60. And now we can adjust how long it's gonna take by using transition. So here we can say duration, and let's say that it will be 0.4 seconds. So let's save it. And as you can see, initially this div has this width. Initially its width is 60 pixels. Okay, so let's keep styling it. So let's say that background color will be gray 900. And now let's say that height will be screen. Okay, it's much better. Let's say that text will be white. Let's say that padding will be 4 from all sides. Now, when we click this button, this sidebar should be open or closed. So let's do it. So on click, I can say set is open from previous value to its opposite value. So if it was false, it will be true. If it was true, it will be false. So let's click it. As you can see, it is expanded, and now if I click, it gets smaller. Okay, now we need some icons to place them here. I have already prepared them, so inside this source folder, I'm gonna create a file called data.jsx, and I'm gonna paste here some data. So as you can see, here I have these icons from React icons, and then this menu items array. Here we have icon and its corresponding text. If you want, you can get access to all my code on my GitHub repository. The link will be in the description. So now inside this sidebar, let's import our data. Let's say import menu items from data. Now under this button, we can create a nav tag. So here, let's say menu items dot map item and index. And now to control the layout even better, we can create a separate component for a separate item. So let's create a new component called nav item. Okay, and let's import it here. So here we can say nav item. And here we need to pass down some values, some properties. But before, we need to say that its key will be index, because for each item inside this menu items array, index is unique. So each of these items has a unique index. So that's why we can say that its key will be equal to this index. Okay. Now let's say that icon will be item.icon. Text will be item.text. So as you remember, inside this data.jsx file, we have this icon property and this text property. And we also need to control the state, whether the sidebar is open or closed. So we need to pass down these values as well. And a function to close or open our sidebar. So let's save it and see what we have. As you can see, here we have a lot of nav items. So let's take care of this. Inside nav item, we need to destructure these properties. So let's do it. So let's say icon, text is open, set is open. Okay. Okay, so inside this div, we can have a span tag, and inside we can show our icon. So let's do it. As you can see, here we have our items, but we can adjust the space between each item. So let's come back to our sidebar.jsx component, and for this nav tag, let's apply the following styles. Let's say that it will be flex, flex will be column, and let's say that gap will be 11, which in other words is 44 pixels. So let's save it. And as you can see, now the space between these items looks better. And to add some space from this icon to this group of icons, we can come to this button and say class name. Let's say that text will be XL. And let's say that margin bottom will be 4. So let's save it. Okay. Now it looks a bit better. So let's try to open it and close it again. Okay. For this span, let's also say that class name will be text XL. Okay. And now if our sidebar is open, right next to these icons, we should show the related text. So let's do it. So now what I'm gonna say, if is open is true, only then we want to show the related texts to the related icons. So let's do it. For that, I'm gonna use a div. And inside I can say text. So let's save it. So if is open is true, we see our texts. If it is false, we do not see them. Okay, we can apply some styles to this div. So let's do it. So when is open is true, we can see that it will be flex. Let's say that items will be center. And let's add some gap, which will be 4. Let's say that cursor will be pointer. Let's say that width will be full. And on hover, we want our text to be blue 400. So let's save it and see what we have. So now, when we hover over, we see this nice blue color. Okay. We're gonna take care of this very soon, so stay tuned. Stay organized and stay productive. Now, in order to see tooltip when we hover over these icons, here inside this sidebar component, under this motion.div, we can say the following. So if is open false, only then we want to show tooltip, which comes from React Tooltip. So we need to say tooltip. Here we need to create its ID. So let's say that it will be sidebar tooltip. For now, let's save it. But we still don't see a tooltip. Now inside this nav item, we need to do the following. So for this span, we can come here and say data tooltip ID. So if is open false, then we want to show here the name of the ID, which we defined in the sidebar.jsx component. It was sidebar tooltip. So if is open false, we want to show this sidebar tooltip. If that's not the case, we can just say undefined. So here, as you remember, we said sidebar tooltip. Under this data tooltip ID, we need to say data tooltip content. And here again, if is open is false, then we want to show our text. If that's not the case, we can say undefined. So let's save it. And now if I hover over this home, for example, as you can see, we see home, we see profile. But we can put this tooltip a bit further from this icon. For that, we need to come to this component, and here we can say offset to be 40, for example. And now it looks much better. Okay. Now I want to be able to open this sidebar when I click one of these icons. Okay. So let's try to do it. We need to come to this nav item.jsx component. Here we need to find span. And here we need to say on click set is open from its previous state to the opposite state. So let's save it. So now if I click this icon, as you can see, we can open this sidebar. But if I click text, nothing happens. And now if I click this icon again, this sidebar is closed. So I think that is correct. For example, you click this icon, and then if you click profile, you want to see your profile page rather than just closing this sidebar again. But if you want to close it, you can either click this button or you can click this icon. And again, you can adjust everything according to your needs. Here I just play around and try to show you something cool and something useful. Okay, so now we can take care of this scroll. For that, we can come here, we can come to this sidebar.jsx component, and here we need to find our navigation. Here it is. Here we can say height will be full and overflow vertically will be auto. So let's save it and see what we have. As you can see, now we have this scroll, but we need to style it because right now it doesn't really look good. So let's take care of this. For that, we can come to this index.css file and say the following. So here we can say nav WebKit, and here we can control the style of our scroll. So here we need to say scrollbar. Here let's say that width will be 6 pixels. Let's save it. And as you can see, we do not see it. Now we can copy this, put it here, and here we can say thumb. And let's say that background color for this will be, this color. And let's say that border radius will be 10 pixels. So as you can see, now we have this good looking scroll. And moreover, we can control it even more. So just keep watching. So now, as you can see, we can control the layout of this scroll even more. So I think that it's pretty good, but as you can see, we still have this overflowing. So let's try to get rid of it. So for that, we can come to this motion.div and we can say flex column. And as you can see, we already don't have that overflowing. And here we can increase the gap by saying gap will be 6. As you can see, here we added some gap. Now it looks good. So, but what happens if I close this sidebar, for example? As you can see, we still have this scroll, but I don't want to see it when sidebar is closed. For that, we can say the following. Here, we can wrap it in curly braces and use backsticks. And here we can say the following. If is open false, we can apply this style called no scroll bar. So we need to take this no scroll bar, come here and say no scroll bar WebKit, and here we also need to find scroll bar, and here we need to say display none. So let's save it. Let's save it here as well. And now if I close it, as you can see, we don't see our scroll bar, but we still can scroll it. So here, by doing this, we target this nav element. So it means that we work with scroll inside this nav element. And by saying WebKit, we affect most modern browsers. We target most modern browsers. So as you can see, we have done everything we wanted to do. So if you find this video helpful, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more useful videos. Thank you.